As always, we'll let the numbers trickle in and then kickstart with the opening video. All right, let's kick off. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, you're here right on time for the next Anyone State of the Union Spaces. It's a bit of a poignant moment for me personally because we're close to exactly 2 years on from when we held a very pivotal space in November 2023. It was a space where we declared our vision and we declared that the incidents that had surrounded us and sought to take us down would not stop us from creating an anonymous network and making privacy truly normal for anyone. And that was really the beginning of a significant journey. Now we are approaching the end of that very big milestone. But before you hear a bit more from me, as always, we'll hear some opening words from Anon Morpho.
Good afternoon and good evening, anyone. I was reflecting on the time of the year and the seasons, and I wanted to make sure that we all give a moment to realize what we're thankful for here. You know, what truly blessing it is to be alive in these times, and to remember the things that we're thankful for. Our families, our friends, and of course the Anyone community that's been here through thick and thin. We've experienced so much together over almost 3 years now, from A Tour to Anyone, and from Tour to our own network. And it's really been such a phenomenal journey. And you know, we should always really appreciate everything that comes with it, and the friendships that we've made, the bonds that we've made, the community that we've grown. It truly, truly is something that I'll remember for the rest of my life. You know, I wanted to obviously let's talk about what's going on with the network, what's going on with the coin. We have so many good guest speakers on today. It's going to be, of course, another exciting space. I know some of you guys, you know, just like us, you know, we are aware of the market and the token price and things of that nature. I don't want you guys to think that we don't care, because obviously we do. But, you know, those things in the markets are out of our control. And today we're going to focus on all the tech upgrades and all the amazing things that we're doing, because we know that these things can turn around in a second. I wanted to highlight, obviously, the privacy space, particularly Zcash. I'm sure you guys are all familiar with what's been going on there with the ticker ZEC. You've seen us demo our own products that integrate and work with that coin. But how fast sentiment and shifts can change. It's almost in 1 month, the coin went up 10x, erasing years and years worth of bad price action, demoralizing feelings. That can go away so fast. So I know sometimes it's hard to be like, oh man, the price is down, or you know, we're not moving, or this and that, the markets and whatever. But you guys have to remember that in this, you know, wonderful world that we live in, that's crypto, markets move fast, sentiment changes super fast, and green candles and sentiment shifts happen so quick that you forget about all the bad times. And if you're here now in these bad times, you have the real passion of what we're building, the real growth of what we're experiencing here, and it makes it all the more worth it down the line. You know, people from every big crypto community have experienced the same thing. You've seen Bitcoin going from 18,000 to 3,000. So, and now look at it today. That's just the nature of the beast. You can't hyper fixate it. You can't hyper focus on it. It will just drive you nuts. What we can hyper focus on and what we can spend all our days and times doing is the growth of the network and the growth of what we're building, because the network effects and Metcalfe's law only take off after hitting that Schelling point. And also, like shilling is most important. I think what we really need to get back to as our roots as a community is making ourselves heard on Twitter, and we'll keep prompting the mods. I want to give a special shout out to Matt and Fibonacci and Ovi, who have really been working hard. James as well, and galvanizing the community, and we're making sure that not only we reinforce those who already know about the vision or know about the coin, but make sure that we go and stand out under new people and new communities and all this new privacy fanatics and let them know what we're building here. It's important to spread the word. The growth of the coin is essential by having our community spread the message, showing off this is the apps that we use. This is the hardware. We've now seen our hardware with Timcast, a huge 2 million plus view person on YouTube and Rumble. We've seen Candace Owens talk about the network, and there's a few more of these type of people that we have signed deals with to come to really spread the word. Because unlike most crypto protocols, we have something that the average normie, even your grandma, can use. And that's super, super exciting. And we have the Apple app, and we're going to have Benjamin Earhart on the space later today. Maybe we'll have a little new surprise that's dropping as well. So we want to let you know, good times, bad times, no matter what's happening, we're building. We have the runway to keep building. We have the runway to finish the network. And, I'm going to hand it over to Neurotic here and give you guys a little piece of news. And I know what you guys have all been waiting for, which is mainnet. I think the final piece of the puzzle, have arrived. We're pretty much 99% ready to go. We are aiming for a mid-December release of the mainnet. And when Neurotic speaks, we're going to give the final steps of what's happening here to get to that vision, to get to that goal, to make this the premier privacy network, not just in crypto, but in the entire world. So let me hand it back to Neurotic to figure out those steps.
Thank you very much, Anon. It's exactly right. As of this moment, from a tech perspective, we have completed what's been a very long journey of hardening our stack, making all of our tech and servers secure. And this is something we've spoken a lot about over various tweets and Medium articles, but it's something that's maybe a little abstract. It's hard to know the significance of this. Why has there been such time devoted to this hardening? What does it mean? But that's exactly what enables us to have the confidence to store and control millions of dollars worth of tokens, to administer thousands of relays. It's the reason why when we had multiple global outages of services from Cloudflare DNS all the way through to AWS's US East, when we saw so-called decentralized services falling left and right and unable to deliver not even a front end or a basic experience to their users, we saw zero downtime within the Anyone network. We saw next to no effects on our own stack, and the protocol continued as normal. And that, may not have been the case a year or year and a half ago. It's the result of a significant amount of effort that goes behind the scenes, maybe less about the user experience, but giving us everything we need to go live with mainnet, which, as Anon highlighted, we are ready to go and targeting certainly this quarter and the weeks of December, finding the right time to make those deployments and go live. And we'll hear a little bit from Kanchi on what that process of going live will actually mean for relay operators. I'll leave that part of the segment to them. In preparation for mainnet, we also decided to throw in two other very cool features that will essentially go alongside that new dashboard. The first is Hyperbeam, and I'll give a little bit of a background to what that means. We started utilizing really Arweave in its most basic form all the way back in early 2023 to avoid the massive storage costs of keeping all this information about all the relays on Ethereum. The cost would have been thousands of dollars a day and completely unsustainable. So we utilized Arweave really for the basic reason of storing this data in a decentralized way that we could then use essentially within our own compute within our own servers. in 2024, we migrated and made use of this new technology, AO, sort of a compute layer, to then decentralize the computation and determination of those rewards. And it's the third step that we've decided to throw in before mainnet is transitioning to Hyperbeam, the latest and greatest technology from the Arweave team for immediate availability, speed, and censorship resistance on the dashboard. Many relay operators likely gotten used to quite long loading times to see the status of all their relays, to see what the rewards are. And Hyperbeam, which we actually received a grant from Arweave's forward research to complete, aims at really reducing this time pretty much down to zero and creating the seamless user experience needed for this to really go mainstream. So we made the decision to accommodate this pre-mainnet so that as soon as we go live, everyone gets the benefit. And the other huge addition that we're enabling that goes live essentially with mainnet is governance. It will follow directly from the contracts that enable staking, and it'll come with some pretty cool tokenomics and features, which I'll chat about, but maybe with a different face in the room. I'm going to add Kanchi here, our lead architect and real rock behind this, to say a few words on it all.
You're very kind. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me, and cheers to all the community members waiting for the mainnet launch. I'm bringing good news. We started preparations. We're reviewing the scripts that we already were testing, throughout the testnet releases. Most recently, I believe 2 months ago. So we're iteratively making improvements on that, and we have, as Neurotic and Alan mentioned, we decided we were ready for the release. And so we now are moving towards a short list of things that need to be done to switch our live environment into Ethereum network. So basically right now we have both the stage and live environments on Sepolia, and we're going to make it so that the live environment lives on Ethereum and that you guys can use the proper Anyone tokens, not the test ones, and that we make all of the exciting features that we've developed over the past, we make them available and work properly with the proper tokenomics attached to it. And as Neurotic mentioned, the governance is one of the latest additions where we were toying with the idea for quite a while, I think, and we finally decided on extending the staking functionality in such a way that if you, as a hodler, as a user and account interacting with the hodler contract, you decide that you want to become a voting hodler, your stakes will be counted towards your voting power. But what it also means is that when you unstake, the period of unstaking will be longer. It will be a governance period, or governance duration, not the stake duration that we assign for normal stakes of the users whose stakes are not counted towards the votes. I hope that was not too confusing, but basically you'll have a button, I want to become a super member of the community and start voting on the decisions and help us decentralize the protocol. That means your stakes will have this secondary effect, but it will take longer to unstake those tokens. With regards to the mainnet launch, which I'm sure is also a huge topic among the community, as it is among us. We will, of course, get all the scripts prepared first, but it might mean that we will have a couple days of downtime on the live environment, because we will be, so to speak, replacing it in the same place, just on a different network. But that will take some coordination and re-releases. So just to make sure that everybody's on the safe side, we're just gonna take down or spin down the operations of the live environment once we start with the deploy process. So stay tuned when you see things shutting down. That means we started the final steps of the release. Happy to answer any questions, Neurotic, if I missed something.
No, I think that was clear. We've actually I've added a background here, which I'm not sure how it looks. Maybe this is a little bit better. about what this will enable. So there's two very important points raised here. The first one is on this governance mechanism. We went back and forth on this as a team. We consulted various members of the community. The question is, we have a very strong group here. We have people who really believe in the protocol, people who you'll be able to identify from Telegram groups, from Discord helplines. We know there are people who care. How do we get that translated into voting power? And how do we, enable a system where the right people, the right intentions can govern these decisions? And so what we decided is we have the staking mechanism. Everyone has the opportunity to choose a relay family to lock their tokens against. It'll boost the family and give you a yield. And the idea here is if you are willing to extend your unlock period, in other words, you toggle on and you become what we call a governance staker, any token you stake is also a vote towards any potential vote proposal. So the people who are in it for the long term, the people who have always been here, the ones who see the vision and put their tokens where their mouths are, have the opportunity to vote. And by creating trust in the governance system, we can really unlock a lot of pretty critical functionality and give it to governance. The mock-up that we have here that we shared on our X page a few months ago is one such example. Relay families and misbehavior by relay operators is not something that we as a central team should have the right to shut down or control. These things can be done in a decentralized way with governance, and that's exactly what we'll enable. The incubation program is another sort of subcategory that governance will enable. So the question I guess I have for Kanchi is how out of nowhere are we able to have governance here when this whole time we've been working on staking and mainnet?
We had it kind of prepared behind the scenes, right? So we already have the votes data structure within the Hodler contract. We already had some of the methods to interact with it, and so really it was just a slight realignment, adding one more feature, redeploying the contracts that allowed us to pull it out of our hats, so to speak. We're also planning to use Snapshot, right? So we didn't decide on this quite soon. So once that decision was in, it was also clear to how do we approach, like what is actually needed and what is the interface that we want to provide here. We're going to be using like a proof, like a already created strategy within the Snapshot API for checking the amounts of votes for people to use, and leverage the Snapshot infrastructure for handling the vote synchronization and all that stuff. So it seems that just kind of clicked all into the right place for us when we needed it.
Yep, exactly that. And I was very impressed at, while maintaining the full security of our smart contracts, we can make use of the gold standard for governance, which, as we see it, is what Snapshot have done, and will allow us to we'll have our own governance DApps and front ends for all these different use cases. But the actual voting process is backed by the staking, and that pipeline is rock solid. So that was honestly a really great addition by the team, and I think it'll create more meaning to this mainnet where staking is not just about yield, but really about your position within the network. So, on behalf of hopefully the entire community, I want to thank Kanchi and the entire dev team for the work they're doing. I'm sure you can all see it in the GitHub, but it's a very exciting release that has been in the works for a long time, and we're as excited as you are to make that a reality. So yeah, thanks again, Kanchi.
Woot.
Remaining on the topic of tech, but a slight segue and maybe a voice we haven't heard in a little while. In parallel, and as you know, as a team, we always strive to develop many things in parallel. You'll see that even in today's space. One thing that maybe we haven't heard that much about recently is the desktop VPN app. And that's because it's part of a much bigger milestone, a much bigger development piece that's focused on making the Anyone network the most configurable onion routing protocol in the world. And I'd be lying if I said that it was particularly easy to do things like custom circuits, custom circuit lengths, custom countries. These are things that if I may name drop it, the Tor network has not really encouraged or created the infrastructure to allow. But in my opinion, it's really important when we think about what people actually care about in privacy. What do they want from an anonymity network? That configurability is really important to adoption. So I've, to be honest, called Yuri here on a bit of a whim to share his thoughts on that, as he's been frontline looking at some of these issues, both from an SDK perspective and also from the perspective of a usable VPN app. So Yuri, you've been working on some tricky problems and interesting code bases recently. I wonder if you have anything to share with the community about that.
Yep. Hi, everyone. So it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for joining and inviting me. So talking about our SDK and VPN app, we had previously beta version. We tested it behind the scene. It works well, but not perfect because it works in a way of polling the anyone protocol to get the information. So we use this information to build circuits, to create some roads, etc. And right now we are redefining this approach to more robust and resilient approach based on event system. So it will be very reactive application and SDK. So not only application we build for VPN, but in general SDK will allow other developers to build more resilient and reactive application on top of it. So we will be able to react on every event happening inside the network, like new nodes joining, new circuits, creating, dying, etc. And it will be fast, and developers could use it in their applications. Talking about VPN app, we want to provide some not default algorithm to build a circuit, to build a path, but also provide a framework which allow another developers to build own algorithms of path selection. So we will have own one VPN app which will use it, and other developers which use this SDK can customize these algorithms, which is not available by default when you use RAW protocol. In RAW protocol, it use default algorithm, but SDK will allow to customize it, use some external information, for example, maybe some meta information, how you want to build this path. And yeah, it will allow build some customized solution, and our VPN application will allow to have multi-target VPN when you open 10 tabs in your browser, and each tab exited from a different IP depends on your settings for this tab, let's say. This is what we work right now, and the next big update for VPN and SDK.
Thank you. I think that sums it up beautifully, and I especially like that last point. It's one thing to have this message about onion routing, about real anonymity where there's not a single server that tracks everything you do. We all know how important that is, especially in the world that we're all barreling towards. But to get people to actually change their habits, to get people to use the app, it's often more about convenience. And I'm really excited and have been excited about this potential. Different tabs or different destination websites, each routing through a different country. You barely see that offering, certainly not with popular VPNs. So we're no strangers to the challenges of creating real world adoption outside of Web3. And it is about, really building a better mousetrap. And I know I would benefit from this tech. If you're in the US, you want to use Binance, you'd like to go through the circuit. If you want to watch YouTube, maybe you don't want a circuit. If you want to go to a different website, you want to be in a different country. These are the things that will move the needle and give you as community members something really concrete to shill and share. So all of that is development that we're working on in parallel, and we won't let the product down. It's something we really care about deeply. So thank you, Yuri, for coming on short notice and espousing some of those details. And yeah, nice to see you again on one of these spaces.
Thanks.
Here's a face we have seen maybe a little more recently. Sorry to throw you one without warning, Benjamin, but for those of you who don't know, this is the illustrious Benjamin Earhart, really one of the, if I may say, lead developers or cores behind OnionBot, behind Onion Browser, and some of those apps that really put Onion routing on the map on mobile, and has since been working with us. He was behind the successful iOS browser app, which I know many of you have on your devices. And the missing step and the next step was always pretty clear: when Android. And that's exactly the topic we're here to talk about, because we've seen some previews, seen some screenshots, but maybe not much more than that. So it's time to hear an update. Benjamin, I guess actually we'll do this as maybe a bit of an interview format like before. For those of you who don't know anything at all about this app, what will it be, and how does it differ to the iOS browser we released before?
Yeah, on iOS, we have the difficulty that Apple makes it very hard for VPN apps to run, because they limit the VPN piece to 50 megabytes of RAM usage, which is very, very tight for an application like Anyone, because all the routing info is stored by the client, and the bigger the network gets, the more RAM it uses, and then everything explodes. Hence, the decision was made to release Anyone Browser for iOS, which is a complete browser, but where the Anyone protocol implementation actually runs in the browser app space. So, and that is not limited. So that's why we have a browser on iOS. On Android, these weird limitations don't exist. And since we're not really in the business of doing browsers, we shouldn't, because others are spending a lot of money on that already, and we're never going to keep up with them. So there, we're going to release a full VPN app, or in that case, pseudo VPN, because it's not really a VPN, but of course, it's going to route all your traffic through the Anyone network.
Perfect. Exactly that. It was always, actually, if we could have done the same on iOS, I think we would have preferred it.
Yeah, we can, but it's going to be brittle all the time, and it's going to annoy your users massively.
No, agreed. And Android is, has the massive global audience that would benefit from this. I'm actually going to try something a little tricky. I'm going to put a recording we have, which is always a little tough in landscape, just to kind of maybe run in the background so people can see what the experience is like on this app. It differs a little bit from a traditional VPN in the sense that you don't just toggle it once for the system and then use your phone. You actually get a bit more control than that. And that's what I'll have this video looping in the background. But Benjamin, you want to talk a little bit about that idea as well of per app routing and having that configurability?
Oh yeah, that's a feature which Android gives us. If you do nothing and just leave it as is, you're going to get full device VPN or full device routing. Every app, everything is going to be routed through Anyone, through the Anyone network. But if you don't like that, you can also just select some of your apps which you like to route through the Anyone network. Say your special browser, which you always use for anonymous tasks, or I don't know, your favorite messengers. That's one thing. The other thing you just mentioned is selecting exit nodes. That's the other thing. So if you don't do anything, you exit accidentally at some exit node. You typically stay there with the website you're surfing. You stay at the same exit, but if you go to another website, you probably will have another exit in probably another country. And if you're searching for some country fixing there, because I don't know, you want to look at a site which is only available in that country, for example, or because some exit nodes are behind censored networks, then you can do that too.
Which is nice. This would be the first app that we're releasing that actually lets you see that country list. I think it's maybe we just passed it in the video. It'll loop back to it, but you see the list of flags, and as our incentives work to grow the network, as people set up new nodes in different locations, that just adds more optionality and more exit nodes and more security for users. So it's something that will grow and improve as the network improves, which I think is really cool. So we are at the stage now. Obviously, this is the first sort of full video demo end-to-end of using the Anyone VPN app for Android. We have that completed APK, and it's time to share it with users. So actually, maybe Benjamin, I'll have you speak a bit about that as well, about Google Play's beta testing protocol and the steps we're all collectively going to take to get this live, which also gets it in the hands of you community guys too.
Yeah. Google actually became more harder than Apple to actually release apps on the Play Store. So since we're a completely new player there, we need to first run our app through they call it a closed alpha test. So anybody who's interested will need to share their email with us. We're going to add them to the test. When we pass the limit of 12 people having tested it, really installed and everything, then we're able to create a public beta. And then we can share a link with you, and you can just push that link, then which jumps you to the Play Store. So you should open that on your device, on your Android device, jump to the Play Store, and then join the public beta. But for this very beginning, we first need to have 12 people doing the alpha test. Although I can tell you it's pretty ready. You might find some bugs, as it's always with software, but it should work pretty well for you already.
And that's the confidence of creating apps with collectively millions of users that we're hearing here from Benjamin. Well, Benjamin, I have some bad news. 12.
Of course, we're standing on the shoulders of giants there. We didn't do it all ourselves.
Oh, absolutely. And then that goes across the stack. But no, I mean that's bad news. 12 different people willing to test an app. I mean, I'm not sure where we're going to find them. This is we may as well pack it up and go home.
I don't know how many people are in this live stream now. Like
the last time we opened the test group, I think for the iOS app, and we limited it to I think 30 people, and we had 150 requests within an hour.
Perfect.
So finding people is exactly what we do at Anyone. No matter what requirements the Google Play Store may put in front of us, this is the part where we can shine. So obviously, I speak in jest, but this is one of the big actionables from the space. We are going to go live with the beta testing for this Android app. If we can extend it to more than 12, we'll do so, but we'll roll it out in stages just so we don't overwhelm some poor executive at Google. I'm already actually seeing some DMs from some of our top community guys asking to be let in. We'll roll that out, but that's one of the big actionables from today. The beta testing of the first version of the Anyone VPN app for Android is going live, and big thumbs up. I think it'll be a lot of fun testing it and sharing it. Interesting thing to note, the security features actually extend to the point that you can't take screenshots or sort of surveil your activities on the app. It actually blocks that, which I also thought was interesting, and we had to actually run an emulator to create this video, but it makes a lot of sense for, some users are more compromised than I may be or we may be, and features like that really matter. So it is about setting the standards here for privacy and mobile privacy. But
we're not just thinking about you Bitcoiners and people out there who want to connect to your mining machines, but also about people who are actually living in suppression and need more than just a VPN.
Absolutely. So, but I'd like to thank you again, Benjamin, for all the hard work. Again, the commits and progress can be seen on GitHub, and actually, the creation of this Android app also necessitated the creation of some Maven libraries. So it does mean if you're an Android developer yourself, it sort of does some of the legwork for you in connecting to the Anyone network. So a lot of things will become possible with that too. If you are a budding developer, or certainly if you want to test, be ready to get involved. We would love all the help we can get. But thanks again very much, Benjamin. We've heard a fair bit from technologists. Maybe it's time to segue a little bit. I'm going to bring Enigma to the stage. And between myself and Enigma, one of our long-standing advisors, we'll talk a little bit maybe about the bigger picture, maybe a little bit about our recognition from some key foundations and institutions recently. And really, again, I'm putting Enigma on the spot, but he always has very profound thoughts and sees beyond the horizon that many of us do in this space. So I'm confident that we are in for some insight.
You're too kind. Thank you so much for having me here today. Yes, it's a rare appearance. As many people don't know, I don't do AMAs in general anymore. And I mentor Joao and Kuj to be doing them rather than myself. So there's a legacy at Enigma Fund for other people. And thank you so much for having me here today.
Oh, sorry, but yeah, thank you very much for being here. So,
if you don't mind, I'd like to before we get started, segue into something. I'd like to remind people about what's important in life. And this is from a good friend of mine, Obi, who's building Fedi, F-E-D-I. Please go check out what he's building in Fedi. Absolutely game-changing. It's one of the best voices in Bitcoin and encryption in the world, in my mind. You should really look at what he's building. In 1993, Eric Hughes' CryptoPunk Manifesto has one of the best measurable legacies of any tech political document of the internet age. Its impact is less literary and more institutional, architectural, economic, and cultural. And here's the core of the legacy, which I'd like to remind everybody of. And if you're in cryptocurrency, if you're in Bitcoin, if you're a believer in what this industry stands for, and not just price go up, price go down, I want to remind you of these things. Encryption would become a civil right, not a military tool. When Hughes wrote it, strong cryptography was restricted and treated like a weapon. 3 decades later, end-to-end encryption is standard in messaging apps, browsers, VPNs, operating systems, and hardware. The manifesto reframed privacy from secrecy to self-determination, a foundational shift. Number 2, privacy technology would become a grassroots movement. Cyberpunks didn't lobby governments. They built tools. PGP, remailers, Tor, anonymous digital cash experiments, and early open source crypto libraries. The cultural norm of write code, don't write laws, comes straight from Hughes. Number 3, it seeded the philosophical soil for Bitcoin. Satoshi explicitly referenced cyberpunk mailing lists. Bitcoin operationalizes Hughes' thesis. Privacy via maths and decentralization. No permission required. Individuals control keys, not institutions. Censorship is expensive, not assured. Without the manifesto, the Bitcoin worldview doesn't coherently exist. Number 4, it defines the modern privacy versus surveillance debate. Governments, corporations, academics, journalists, even in intelligence agencies still use cyberpunk framing. Number 6, number 5 helps if I don't skip one, right? It anticipates the friction of the 21st century. The manifesto predicted mass data extraction, identity as a commodity, global real-time financial monitoring, automated censorship, weaponized information flows. Its warning became the business model, the actual business model of big tech. Number 6, it built a culture that refuses permission. The ethos lives on in open source communities, decentralized protocols, anonymous speech, whistleblowing networks, distributed identity and financial systems. Cyberpunk isn't a genre, it's a praxis. And number 7, its message is more relevant now than in 1993. AI scraping, biometric databases, CBDCs, predictive policing, and mass extraction, mass extortion of communities and economies validates its core demand. If we want privacy in a digital world, we must build it ourselves. The paradox of this legacy: the manifesto succeeded culturally and technically, but failed politically. Most people use encryption, but most don't control their data, identity, or financial lives. So the work isn't finished. And thank you, Obi, for reminding us of that. And what I'd like to remind you of is that so many protocols that we know out there boast to be building on Tor networks. But I'd like to remind you of the lesson that we learned. At any time on Tor, you can be de-anonymized and you can be thrown off the network. It's not a governance vote. It's not a voice of the people who makes that decision. It's the voice of one person. And that is not part of this manifesto. What we've been building here, fastidiously and without any external funding, is the basis for everything of how a website that contains information can stay up without and be censorship resistant. And I'd like you to think, for example, if you're religious and you would like to believe that spirituality could be spread in different parts of the world, there are places in the world where you can't keep a website up because your spirituality, for example, your beliefs don't align with that of the political genre and the political system there, or the political regime. Anyone changes that. Anyone is for anyone. The second thing I'd like to remind you is it goes beyond human beings. The rails we've built are not just for humans to use, but also for artificial intelligence. And we're speaking to a wide variety of companies. We're digging around to find ways to get a hold of people who control mobile networks. And if you're on this call and you know people at a big mobile network, we want to hear from you because we'd like to be enabling them with this kind of with these kind of tools. But on the other hand, what happens when AI agents want to speak to other AI agents? What happens with that information? What happens when they want to stay up? There's a lot that we've built here. This is not a simplistic feat. We're not a VC-backed company. Yes, I'm technically I represent a very small venture capital firm. And yes, by the way, anyone who remembers the day that we bought $200,000 of anyone, you can find that anyone still sits in the same wallet. It's doxed. It hasn't moved, and not a cent has been sold. We've added to it from other buckets, but actually we haven't sold a single one because we have a long-term view and a long-term belief that transcends the fluctuations of prices and instability or rallies in the market. And every week, Neuratic, Anon and I collaborate and cooperate and sit together, and we think about a few different aspects of how this company and this entity evolves, how this technology evolves. And yes, one of the big things we think about is revenue. How do we get revenue? And, not just for buybacks, revenue for sustainability, scalability, etc. But the revenue is like watching the flickering tongue coming out of a kitten's mouth. Focus on the kitten, people. Okay, don't look at the don't look at the time. Focus on the kitten. The kitten for us, the cat for us, is the fact that there's wide scale adoption, and that can happen on an enterprise level, and commercial level, and at a grassroots level. And we're hitting it from both angles to make sure that both are taken care of. And now, as we near this time of actual productization, it's not just a hardware box that you're plugging in anymore. Actual usable products that you can download on your Android and iOS phone, desktop applications, and mainnet. We come into this entirely new era for this company. We've delivered, and delivered more than most, with a lot less than many have ever had. And it's my privilege to be serving here, because I think we're creating tools for humanity. And you know what humanity needs? Humanity or life without privacy is not freedom. You can't have freedom without privacy. And this is just a hardcore fact. So you can't have safety without privacy. And we're building those essential tools alongside many, many others. And as my colleague said today, we're standing on the shoulders of giants, and we don't forget that. We don't poo-poo who Tor is. They built essential tools at a time that no one else was building them. But there does come a time where a new paradigm needs to be shifted into, and that's what I believe Anyone represents. And for me, that's a privilege. It's a right. It's not it's a privilege and a right to be working on something like that. It's not something that I take for granted. But yeah, it's now, after a little bit of headiness, a little bit of thinking really hard about what's being built here and how it's being built and by whom it's being built and the risks that have been taken to build this. Let's chat.
I think, and I hope you all feel the same, just to listen to that was really a privilege. And it's actually something I want to listen back to and maybe even write up, because the points raised there were very important. And there's a few different directions I can go with this. First of all, thank you very much, Enigma, for all those words. I think it's a reminder of the belief that still exists within the team, that still exists within our core supporters. That's why we continue to speak every week and plan and think beyond the bubble of the problems of today and this week and this month, and towards the original vision in the context of what the internet needs to be. And was one of the very powerful things about your speech here, was reminding us of that context. And it's certainly true that onion routing, and more specifically the Tor network, has gained prominence and gained maybe a bigger voice within the blockchain community, within Web3. And I see that as nothing but a good thing. People are recognizing the importance of network level anonymity within these protocols, all the way from individual teams up to the senior leadership of Ethereum. I think that's nothing but a good thing, because more privacy, certainly better than less. And it's an environment that makes it easier for us to push the unique offering that we have. I think many of us here have been here for a few years. They know the story. They know some of the limitations of these existing onion routing offerings, and they know what we do differently. And I think the audience to that message is only going to get more receptive. It was great to receive some recognition from the ETH Foundation with our inclusion in the Founder Success Program over at ETH Buenos Aires. And if he is listening or listens in the future, a big shout out to Abbas Khan from the ETH Foundation for really spearheading a movement to do more to support founders. I think the effects of that are only just beginning to be felt. It's a great new direction and great attitude from the foundation. And it's our role to push out legitimate use cases, to be a face for this industry. And any support we can garner from that is only going to help. So that's also been a great recent development. And a big personal milestone for myself to get that recognition from the ETH Foundation.
And absolutely congratulations to you, by the way. I've seen the hard work that's gone behind that. The times of trials and tribulations, the difficulties we had right from when we went through the troubles with, getting bumped off the Tor network, and everyone thinking it was all over. And that I think what had happened in December, and by February we had our own network up. And we owe them thanks, right? Because we would have never, ever have been pushed to excellence, to go to that level, unless that had happened. And all of that has set us on our own path in so many ways, right? And these points of adversity are really these massive opportunities for us. I always like to think, for many people who don't know, my life starts with spirituality. I wake up 5:30 in the morning every morning, and I come sit down on the couch, my coffee, and I read the Kabbalah to start my day seated in spirituality. And the Kabbalah teaches us something really interesting about life. I'm sure there's some people rolling their eyes right now going, oh, Jesus Christ, Enigma, you're going to give us another one of your stories. Next thing he's going to tell us about some guy with an onion on his belt and lived by Shelbyville, whatever. Okay, but here's the thing, right? It tells us that without great resistance, no great light can be shed. Look at a light bulb. It is only because the presence of resistance in the filament that we can shed light. And so it is in all the experiences of our lives. And maybe we look at these things and we can understand, we can open our eyes to understand that all of this adversity that we face in the world itself, in these kind of situations, are actually designed for us. And can you accept that? That not just the great things are designed for us, but actually these things are designed for us to create greater light. And I believe that that's something that we do here. We're creating greater light. We're creating the optionality for people to really have a level of privacy and thus safety and freedom. You cannot have freedom and safety without privacy. And we just wouldn't have been pushed into that paradigm without all these people who have come along the way, from the people who purchased the token, to the people who've held it, to the people who've contributed, to the people who sometimes we felt gave us a really hard time. But, I don't know that we would have finally made headway and got recognized for the hard and incredible work of the team and the sacrifices that have been made by Neuretic and Non and the entire team by the Ethereum Foundation. That's not an easy to do thing, right? Very few companies get that form of recognition or acceptance. ETH is a very, very hard place to make. So absolutely, congratulations. And we can say that, yes, never mind the world, the work begins, but no, let's stop and appreciate that. Because who would have thought at the beginning of this year that this would have been the outcome?
Absolutely. And we don't build for that recognition, but it's certainly nice to receive it along the way. And
we appreciate it. We appreciate it.
Exactly. So on the point of actually, this follows somewhat nicely from the origin of onion routing and the path that led us to here. We can talk about something that I guess if the events of late 23 with Tor had never happened, we would never have the opportunity to show this video. I'll speak over this video a little bit. We have got here one of the more recent pieces of media from the development team, where we run on separate ports, both the Tor network and the Anyone network, and check out a couple of sites on two different browsers at the same time. So I'll let that play with that context. from speed tests all the way through an increasingly popular site.
For years, I've been outspoken about protecting our freedoms online, and that is why I support the Anyone Network.
Just one of many examples. You may have seen or experienced it just as a community member going and using the Anyone Network, using the proxies. But it's increasingly clear why we do this, because more capacity, better performance, better configurability, ease of use, integration within apps. These are all things that are, to varying degrees, missing from the current offering with onion routing. And that's exactly what we're here to do better. So that was just a small demonstration, just a snapshot actually from earlier today of comparing those two networks, their speeds and ability to load popular pages like Rumble, something we may be well hearing about more as we gain ambassadors such as Candace Owens and more recently Tim Pool. The other thing, actually, if you caught it in the video, is in the right browser example. When we connected to the Anyone Network, we actually made use of not one of our team's pieces of tech, but a community-run one, the dBros Anyone extension, which lets you either connect to a locally running Anyone client or select from a list of free proxies that exist. So with just one extension, you can connect and be protected by the Anyone Network. And the reason I felt the need to bring up that tech and include that in the example today is that the dBros team building AnChat is one of the teams that actually reached out to us following our call to action for potential incubations. And given that they've already built some things, I thought I'd give them a chance to maybe present themselves here to the community and say a few words about what the Anyone Network enables them to create, and maybe a little bit more too. So without further ado, I'd like to call on one of the dBros community members. Oh, sorry, builders, did I say?
First of all, very many thanks to the Anyone team for not only letting us being part of this state of the Anyone, but also from their immediate response when we learned about their incubation program, and now we're an official candidate. So what is dBros? We are a brotherhood of developers building decentralized applications. And we are united by a common vision, privacy and decentralization. And the Anyone team have created the foundations for all of this to be created. So we built on top of the Anyone network and with the Anyone network in order to create some amazing technologies that are going to power the world of decentralized development in the coming years. We have created many things like the Anyone browser extension that it was showcased earlier. And all of these applications are created from a core, the dBros network. The dBros network, imagine it as a baseline, an AWS or a GCP alternative, let's say, which allows peer-to-peer decentralized development for any developer. So you could actually build any application from scratch, like AnChat that we're going to talk about in a bit, without all of the difficulties that someone may face on the Web3 ecosystem, like the difficulty of transactions, of being able to save large amounts of data, etc. And that's why we built the dBros network. And on top of the dBros network, we can create applications, and one of them is AnChat. AnChat is basically our flagship application. It's the first major implementation on top of the dBros network, and it's, as the name implies, it's an end-to-end encrypted chat application using the Anyone network. So this means that wherever you are in the world, your identity always stays hidden. And by implementing this, we showcase that anything that you build on top of the dBros network automatically uses the Anyone network which means that you don't have to install any special application VPN or use proxy. By default, your application is secure and it is private. And I think developers from now on, this is how they should think, that you don't need a VPN in order to, let's say, stay anonymous, but developers can start building and using the Anyone client and creating their applications from scratch, decentralized and private. And that's why we brought together the DBROS network, which gives us that opportunity, and the Anyone protocol. So DBROS have a big vision, and you are going to see a lot of things coming out in the in next year, especially Ansat, which is in beta testing right now internally, and hopefully it's going to come out really soon, so people can actually sign in with only their wallets, no KYC, no emails, no anything, and they can have end-to-end encryption, encrypting everything from their devices, and everything is proxied through the Anyone network. Thanks again, the Anyone team. I mean, it was a very big opportunity, and I think we're going to have many more updates in the future.
Thank you very much for coming on and saying a few words. I have had the opportunity to, have a look at what DBROS are building, and what I like about it is not just, a singular application, but actually sort of an infrastructure on top of our infrastructure to enable things like databases and reading and writing and social apps, which are otherwise a little bit tricky to do just natively with hidden services. And we have a number of excellent builders across the ecosystem, and it was very nice to highlight one of them here today, who have actively created products that we demoed and are actively involving the Anyone network in what they're doing, which is always great to see, and no matter where that comes from, that deserves promotion and support. So we're always incredibly thankful to the builders who choose to use our tech stack, or in this case, even extend it. And as a community, we have the opportunity to choose whether we'd like to support initiatives like this further via the incubations, but that's sort of a bit of a chapter for after mainnet. So thank you again for coming and sharing a little bit about one of many tech initiatives being built on top of the Anyone network. So we've heard it all. It's been quite a long space from the initial, mainnet timing announcements to some of the features we get with mainnet, such as the Hyperbeam super speed availability, the governance, all the way down to the VPN app and some of the cool optionality that it enables, no VPN app can do, down to the very cool video demo of the Android app, the announcement that we are opening beta testing. There's been a lot of work behind the scenes, and it was a pleasure to share some of that with you. But as always, to really end on a bang, I've brought Anon Morpho back on the stage for some of his own closing words.
Yeah, it was a really, really good spaces. I think, if you're not confident in the team by now, after the space, you should be super excited about all the things that are coming. I didn't even hark on the ETH Foundation. There's going to be hopefully a lot more coming from that. It was really an honor to be selected for their mentorship program. They're taking privacy very seriously, and we hope to be the champion project on ETH with that initiative. We're really excited for this incubation projects, really excited for mainnet. We're really excited for you guys to start using this application on Android. I mean, we have a multi-year vision, and we're just getting started. And we're excited that you guys are along on the way, and we know that eventually we are going to take over this space yet again. So cheers to Anyone, cheers to you guys, and we'll see you guys next time. Have a great holiday.
Thanks, everyone.